All right,
Okay.
everybody. So hi and welcome. This is, we're going to be talking about accessible Python courses. And my name is Sofia de Jesus. I am the Associate Program Manager at Carnegie Mellon University's CS Academy. And I've been with them part-time since March. I will join the team full-time on July 1st. And so what I'm going to be doing today is a little bit of a mix about talking about our curriculum and what it is that we do and why we do it and why it is so important to us. And then what we're going to also do is try to play a little bit with our curriculum, because I think that to get a really good grasp of what our curriculum does and what it is, you need to actually get your hands on it. So we're going to do a little bit of both of those things. We do have free professional development. So Spanish PD links are going to, the form to sign up is also included in the chat now. So both the English versions for the free PDs and the Spanish versions are available. We are currently in the middle of one right now. So we are running our PD today, yesterday, today, tomorrow, and Thursday. But we have a couple more in English and a couple more in Spanish. The next Spanish one is on Monday. So what do we do? So this is about me, first of all. So Sofia de Jesus. I'm an educator. I wrote a book. It's called Applied Computational Thinking with Python. And it's only applications. It is really to get an idea of what it is that Python is used for. Because I say this a lot in presentations and conferences, I had a hard time learning programming outside of, I could ace a course, but then I didn't know how to use what I learned. So I really wanted to write something that was applications, and my co-author, Dayreen Martinez, helped me get through the machine learning chapters in the book so that we could do a pretty broad representation of what it is that Python can do for us. Other than that, I currently work as the Associate Program Manager, as I mentioned before, with CMU. And I was previously, and going to happen until the end of July, I am still working with Hawkins School. So I am a computational thinking teacher. And my job there was to create curriculum for computational thinking in middle school. I created the entire program, a whole lot of electives, and I taught anything from robotics, game design, Python, and anything else you can think of in that arena. I've taught it and I've loved it. And so why I made the move was because one of my passions is representation, equity, justice, social justice. We need to change the world, the way the world looks at us. And we want to make sure that we are representing what our populations are. So in CS, right now, as you all know, it's majority white male. And the only way that we can make that shift to represent what our society actually looks like is to provide a way for everybody to have access to these courses. So what happened with Carnegie Mellon is that Mark Stehlik and David Kosbie, they were approached by Pittsburgh schools. They wanted a way to train teachers, because we all know that there's also a lack of teachers that are trained to do CS. So what we wanted to do is, what they wanted us to do was to create something that would help them train teachers, but also be a full curriculum. And part of what we wanted to make sure that we stayed true to is that we wanted everything to be free of charge. So anything that we do is free. So the curriculum itself is free, and we have multiple courses. The PD is free. Support is free. We have a student team that works with us that will answer your questions. We have a team of 6 full-timers currently, and that's one of them is me. And we are really on it to try to make sure that you have the best experience possible with our curriculum, because we really just want to make sure that we are providing you with what the tools that you need. So For example, today there was a request for another feature in one of our PD sessions, and that immediately went to our software designer, and he has it on a list of things to add because it was a really good suggestion. And so we do make adjustments, and we do listen to our teachers and our students. And so what we have, our courses, CS0 is a 40-hour short course, kind of a dabble into Python, and it has 4 units. We say it's 40 hours. If you're teaching middle school, that can be like a trimester course where you're seeing your students every other day for 45 minutes. That's what I did. But it can also be an after-school activity or a club or something similar, not just middle grades, but in high school before they take CS1. CS1 is our flagship course, and it is, and those are our PD dates, by the way, and I gave you the links. But the CS1 is our flagship, and it's 1-year course, and it's only available for verified teachers. So we are very careful about who we give access to the courses to, because teacher accounts have access to all the solutions. And so we don't want every student to have access to the solutions, so we are a little careful about who has that. But CS0 has mentor accounts, so anybody who wants to do a club and such, they have access to the CS0 course, and they're able to teach it, although they will not have the solutions. And then we have CSP, which is a partnership with code.org. Which is an alternative option for the AP CSP course, so that they can do the create tasks with Python. So units 3, 4, 5, and 7 are done in the CS Academy platform. I will say that CSP is going through a little bit of a review. We review our courses fairly often. CS1 is not getting a major revamp this year, but CS0 got a full facelift and some edits to the content so that it was more aligned to what we wanted it to do. And then we have a CS2 pilot year 2, which is curriculum that needs to have CS1 as a prerequisite. And currently it's done linearly because we are still testing some of the modules. But it is really important to note that these modules will not be needed in terms of anybody can take them in any order they want. So if I'm a teacher that only wants to do a game design module kind of thing, I can just grab that module and use it by fall of 2022. The one that I did not have in here is CS3. There is a CS3 that will be piloted. It's a closed pilot happening this fall. But if you are currently a CMU CS Academy teacher and you are interested in that pilot, you are more than welcome to email Erin Colley and or myself. And so my email is this, and I'm putting it in there, and hers is in there as well. And Erin Colley is our program manager, so she's our leader and helps us with pretty much everything and knows every answer to the questions. So, so if you are a CS Academy teacher, you are welcome to reach out to her if you're interested in that CS3 pilot. So now I am going to go backwards here just to highlight some of the things that our curriculum does. So we are a graphics-based curriculum, and we wanted this to be something that the students could get really excited about. And so we wanted it to be accessible to them. We've run tests to make sure that our visuals are good for all students, including anybody who has who's colorblind, for example. We have all the notes for the students. For the teachers and the students. We have open assignments, we have creative tasks. And again, that's something that I'm going to show you, because talking about it is one thing, but actually showing you what this looks like is important. And we also have a collaborative environment, which is, we have a sandbox that at the end of every unit, there are some collaborative tasks, and you can group students together and they can code in the same space no matter where they are. So that is extremely important, and it was really helpful during this past year, because some of my students were in the classroom, some of my students were remote, I was remote. So in that way, we were able to still work together and still collaborate together, even though some students were in different places. So those are some of the things. We also have them in multiple languages. So as you saw, I have PDs in Spanish and English. We do have it available in German. That's being used by a university in Germany. And then our Spanish curriculum, we have CS1 and CS0 currently translated. We are waiting until the second pilot of the CS2 to translate that, but we will start translating AP CSP as well, because we do want to make sure that students have that access to their language. And one of my favorite things about this curriculum and the fact that it is in different languages is that the toggle between the languages, it's an easy thing. So I can just hit a button and go to Spanish if I need it, or if I'm unsure of a word, and I can go back to English, or vice versa. And then our exercises are auto-graded. The only piece that is not auto-graded is the creative and collaborative task, because those are student developed. And then we have a whole lot of teacher tools, accounts, student accounts, all of that free of charge. And this isn't a trial kind of thing. So I like to say that as often as possible, because you would not believe the amount of times that I say that, and then I get an email, are you sure it's free? So yes, it is free, and it is free today, tomorrow, and the next day. So now here's the thing. Because I wanted to make sure that we have a taste of what is it that I'm talking about, I am going to go ahead and give you access to a student classroom. However, because we are remote, unless you have two monitors like I do at the moment, part of what's tricky is that if you're toggling back and forth to see what I'm doing on your computer, it can be a little tricky and difficult, even if you have a split screen. So you are welcome to keep that link, sign up as a student, and then play with it if you would like, and just watch what I do, or you can follow along. It's up to you. And you can sign up for teacher accounts by just going to our website, and the website is on the presentation right there. So I will give you the link to the presentation in 2 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, and by the way, so this is kind of what I am going to be doing in the next few minutes. And we are going to be doing some instruction of like, what is our CMU CS Academy site? How do we use it? How do we log in? And then we're going to learn how to do a couple simple figures. And then I'm going to give you a bit of a creative task challenge so that you can do that in the Sandbox or a creative task. And then I'm going to answer all your questions. So here we go. So I am going to give you also the presentation link on the chat so that you have access to that. And then you have access to our classroom. So as you can see, I am now on a completely different site. So I'm going to log out so that you can see how to get back in here. So when you get into our page, this is what you see. Now you can see at the top it says English. I can also change that to Spanish, and that's what I mean by it's quick and easy. So now it's en español. So our curriculum, it is translated, so you can see how easy that little shift is. To sign up, if you're going to the classroom, you can just use the link I gave you, or you can sign up as a student and then type in the code that I provided, which is the MC23 MC70. And you can type that in and create your account. Once you are in, if you are a teacher, this is kind of what it looks like. Now, it leaves you, it comes up wherever you left off. And like I said, I've been running some PDs. So I was in Unit 4. But on the list on the left side, you get an access to all your courses. And these are, I have more than any of you would have because I have access to previous courses. But you also have your Sandbox, which we will click in a second, a Resources tab, which gives you information about pacing guides, quizzes, reviews. There are Kahoots already created for units. There are quizzes and tests for CS1. There are no quizzes on CS0 yet, but they will be ready and available for this fall because it was something that teachers requested. So we've now created that. Our support tab is right here on the left side, but you also can access it here. And that's just a quick, you can send us an email and we immediately receive that. We also have a forum where you can discuss with other teachers and the staff any questions that you might have, or even search any of the discussion topics that already exist. And you can see that there's some people who've already added some comments and such. And then professional development. This is, we provide something for teachers to become certified if they would like. You do not have to be certified, and you do not have to actually go to training to use our curriculum. You just need to be a teacher. And we need to verify your status as a teacher. Other than that, you have access to our curriculum. We encourage teachers to take our training just so that they can ask questions. But it's up to you how you use this. Now, you can create classrooms. So we have a couple different classrooms, and I am going to, like I said, I'm going to do a quick overview. This is a course that I taught at the beginning of last year, this school year. And you can see that I have access to my students' work. So these green check marks mean that they work through everything. I can also edit the amount of points they get for things. And then the other thing that you can see here are collaborative and creative tasks, which at this point, some of them did not submit and some of them did not get the, did not show for multiple reasons, but I don't grade things. I asked them to just ignore the point systems because it was a pass-fail class and I wanted them to just focus on the actual work. But collaborative tasks, like I mentioned, are where multiple students can work together. And you can see that Eleanor had code here and David added code here, and they created something. And if I run it, you get a little figure with some images, which gets me to what we're going to be doing. I'm going to actually go through some instruction about how to create rectangles, stars, circles. And then I'm going to give you some time to try to test out creating something like a simple horizon, or your favorite food, or your favorite location, or something that makes you happy. And so I'm going to go fairly quickly, so I apologize for that, but we do have limited time. But the creative tasks and collaborative tasks are always locked. So that, I mean, unlocked, which means that your students have access to that regardless of what you lock or unlock, which as a teacher, we can limit pacing. So we can default it to unlimited, which that's what the default is, or I can lock it. And because this is a class I already did, I can lock what you are able to get to if I want to limit some of my students. So if I go to my Constellation Summit, I have a couple students that have joined. And what I can do is if I go to my pacing, I can limit what they work on or not by just clicking the location I want and then click save. And at that, once I do that, if I logged in as a student, then that would be grayed out. But this is what our teacher resources kind of look like. And of course, it's a very quick overview. But then this is what our courses look like. So our courses have the units. So this is CS0, which is the one I'm going to be using a little bit today. And it has 4 units, like I mentioned earlier. And it is used so that students can learn how to use the graphics library and some of the important things in Python, like conditional statements, loops, and how to create groups, and so on and so forth. So what we do is we have a getting started lesson, and this is not meant for students to just run on their own and teachers just silently stay there. we really do want teachers to be involved in the material. So you would go through this. There are notes that are only for the teacher, and those will be annotated as a teacher only. But it goes through everything, and it tells you like, hey, let's draw a circle, and what does that mean? So a circle has 3 required arguments, and this is important for today. And that is your center X, your center Y, and your radius. Other than that, you have a whole lot of other things that you can do with it. And then once you have these things, these green buttons, you can run it and check it. And then I always ask my students to start playing around. What happens if I change the numbers? And what happens if I make this smaller? And they get to test that out and see what happens with their circles. And then the other thing is you can add a fill. So like if I wanted it to be a pink circle instead, I can just add a fill and then it becomes pink. I can also add a gradient fill. So I can be gradient and then that would be pink. And let's do purple. And then you'll see too many parentheses, but you'll see that now my circle has a pink center and then some darker purples on the outside. So you can start working with all of that. And again, this is actually covered in the lessons. So I'm not going through the actual lesson myself, but I am going to show you some of these things so that you can start playing as well. So the Sandbox is a fantastic place for teachers and for students. That's where you can, it's not tied to any course, it's just your Sandbox. And I can, for example, start playing with it and saying, oh, I want a circle that's in the middle. And the middle is 200, 200. And if you have any questions about what our grid is, which is not like a coordinate plane, 0, 0 is in the top left and 400, 400 is the bottom right. So the center is 200, 200, and you can toggle that grid on and off. And that's extremely helpful. And then, like I said, a circle takes 3 arguments, center X, center Y, and your radius. So let's do a radius of 100, and let's fill it with light blue. So if I do that and I wanted to save this, I can go ahead and click here, and I can save that, and I'm going to do a demo circle, and I'm going to click Save. So once I have this, I can actually send that to anybody who's in this class or any class. So if I go to the Constellations Summit, I can select those 2 students. And those 2 students that have signed up, they can go into the Sandbox, click over here, click Open, and they'll see Shared by Teacher on the top here. And so they could grab my code and start playing with it themselves. So what if I change that to sky blue? And how do I know what the names of the things are? Well, the Docs and Colors is one of my favorite tabs. Everything is my favorite, by the way. I love this curriculum. So if you go to Docs and Colors, you'll have all of the predefined colors, the built-in here. So you can see the colors that already have names. But you can absolutely use an RGB color. So if you had a specific RGB value, you would do that just like you would with anything. And I don't know what that color is, but now we do. So you can change it to an RGB color, or you can add a pre-built-in color. But another thing in Docs and Colors is, let's say that I forgot what is the order of the things that I need for a circle. So I can just do circle, and I can find it in shapes. And then it'll also tell me, so it'll give me all of these things that I can do for a circle. And by the way, I remember I said you need 3, but you have more. So there are other arguments you can use. We will play with that in a minute. But it will give you all that information, but it'll also tell you which lessons in each course are tied to that circle. So where it is discussed, it gives you that information in the Docs and Colors. So if I wanted to just rectangle, I can check shapes, and it'll tell me where I learned about it, and then it gives me those informations. And it also tells me what are the required values. And let's look at that. Right now, it says that my rectangles are left top with height. So I need left top with height. So let's say that I wanted a rectangle that has the top left corner right here. So if you look at my screen, and by the way, I can make this bigger, which we also did on purpose because every teacher has a different setup in the classroom. So in order for students and teachers to be able to see the screens, we can adjust these. And so it becomes bigger and you can see my screen better. But you can also see on the bottom, see the bottom where it says X265 through 81, that changes. So if I wanted this corner, you know that that corner is X is 40 and Y is 80. So if I wanted a rectangle to have that corner there, so it was 40 and 80. And then I also need to know how wide I want it. So if I wanted it to go from here to here, it would be 280. And then we're going to make it 300 tall. So top left, X, top left, Y, width, height. And then we're going to fill it with light blue. And we're going to run that. And where did my circle go? Well, Python likes to do things in order. So if my circle goes first and my rectangle goes second, then I can't see my circle. Right? So remember one of those arguments that we also didn't talk too much about? Well, one of them is your opacity. So I can also add an opacity, which makes it transparent or not. And I can change that to 30 and our circle will become a little translucent. So if I actually eliminated that opacity, but added an opacity here, and then I put it after the circle, we would get a different thing because in this case, you can see that my rectangle, I can still see my circle because even though it's on top, it's transparent. So if I added 80 to that, that's going to be darker. So it's going to cover a little bit more of it. And you can go up to 100 because that's 100%. So that's how you do a circle and that's how you do a rectangle. And then we're going to do another shape, and that's a star. And a star has 4 required points too. It needs the center, it needs the center Y, it needs the radius, and it needs how many points do you want. And it has to be 3 or more because a star with 2 points is a line. So we're going to do the same center as the circle on purpose. We're going to do the same radius also on purpose. And then we're going to do 5 points because we're going to do a 5-point star. And then we're going to do fill equals pink. Whoops, I forgot the quotations. And then we're going to run that. So now I have a 5-point star. Now, if I wanted 8 points, this is what happens. And if I wanted 1,000 points, it looks really, really cool. And you get that kind of shape. That is a really simple, kind of very quick introduction to these 3 shapes. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that you can use the console here. So you can do, if I needed to do the math for something like 360 minus 40, because I wanted to know what the width was in that case, it'll give me that math. And then there's other shapes. So just so you know, there's ovals, there's polygons, there's so much that you can play with here. But with these 3 shapes, you can actually make quite a few different things. So part of what we would do at this point is I am going to give you about 10 minutes to try to create something while I also do that. Now, I am going to be talking about what I'm doing and creating so that those of you who are not planning on playing with it right now and are going to play with it later, you can still watch me and it's not just silence for 10 minutes. But for those of you who are pretty confident and just want to play, I can share this actually. So I'm going to save it and I'm going to go ahead and share that with students who are in this again. So if anybody else joins while I am doing it, please post in the chat since my audio is a little weird. And I will go ahead and share that again. So let's look at creating maybe a smiley face. So we're going to start by editing some of these things. I'm going to put the rectangle in the back because I want it to have a background. And then it's not centered, so that's bothering me, which means I want this to be longer. So we're going to add 40 to the width. So we're going to say 320 and test that out. And I want this to be shorter, so let's do 250. That looks a little better. Then our circle, that color is a little strong, so I'm going to change that to yellow. Also, because I just said we're going to do a smiley face, and those are your traditionals. So we're going to do a yellow, and then we're going to get rid of this star for now. So now I have, what I did was I created a rectangle, just playing with the one that I had already started. And then I changed the fill of my circle, which was already in the middle, to that yellow. And if you want to see what that looks like without the grid, it's cleaner, but it's also harder to see where I want to put my eyes. So my eyes should go like around here. So I think that that would be about, let's see, this would be about 160 and 180. So let's do a circle at 160, 180. And we're going to leave it black. So we're going to keep the fill at black. And I'm going to guesstimate that I want to be to have a 20 radius. And we're going to see what happens. That's not bad. There you go. So we did our first eye. So our second eye would go about here, which means that my X value is going to change, but not my Y value, right? Because my Y value, it's at the same height. So my X value is going to be 240. So I'm going to do another circle at 180 and then 20 again. And there you have the eyes. Now, how do I make it smile? So, tricky. So let's see what we can do. We can do two circles, one that's yellow and one that's black. And what we can do is put the yellow overlapping the black slightly. So we're going to do the black one first. And I'm going to do that before the eyes because I don't want any yellow to cover my eyes. And we'll move that and explain that in a second. But here's what we do. I want the mouth to be about this long, I guess is what we would say. So the diameter of my circle needs to be 60, 20, 40, 80. So it needs to be 80. And I want it to be around here. So that's X is 200, Y is 260. So let's do 200, 260. And I said 80. So we're going to see what happens. I'm going to get, that's not right. Nope. Let's try that. A little better. Let's try to move it up a little bit. So that would be 250 because the numbers get, okay, that's better. So remember that the Y's get bigger as you go down, smaller as you go up. It's a little tricky. So you see this mouth, it's a little scary. It's like surprise. So we're going to do another one, and it's going to have the X is the same, but the Y is going to be slightly above it. We're going to make it the same radius just to test it out, and we're going to fill it with yellow. Why yellow? You'll see in a second. So there's my smile. It's a little weird, but it's a smile. If I would like to use an oval in this case, but I never showed you the ovals. So, so you can do this a very similar thing with ovals, where you put an oval on top of another one, and then it makes it disappear. So it only shows a little bit of that. And so this is a very simple kind of creative task that you would be able to do in our classroom. which is extremely helpful for students to get their creative juices flowing. I am going to show you in the classroom where those are. So in the unit, as you go down, these are the creative tasks, and this is the collaborative task. And you saw some of my collaborative tasks for my students, but let me show you what actually happens in the classroom when you do a creative task. So I am going to show you Matthew here. And I want you to understand that there is no image uploaded here. These are just shapes. All of them are shapes. And he did use a polygon, which we removed polygons from CS0, but at this time they existed. But this is his creation, which is a pretty fantastic thing for a beginner in a CS course. That's a CS0 course for somebody who had never done text coding. So he created this all on his own, no help from anybody whatsoever. And he looked for the colors that would match what he needed. So that's a creative task by a student. And then there's another one here I wanted to show you. And I provide my students with some guidelines. But this one of the reasons that I like it so much, I clicked out of it, is that it has some comments in there. And this is something that I try to tell my students to do. And it's because if you mess something up, one of the things that I tell my students is it's easier to find it if you know what you're looking for. So like, this is the roof, and these are the planks, and these is the building. So if you mess anything up, kind of easier to go find it. And so this is another creative task from a student. And it's, again, I find these to be gorgeous because they are original works from my students using what they've learned in a class. This is, that was Sebastian. And let's do Daniel. Daniel loves everything that has to do with space. So there's your space right there. And they're all showing up with my grid. So I'm going to actually turn off my grid so that we can see those things cleaner. Because we do have, and I do have quite a few, of course, because my students all did their creative tasks. But those are some of the ones that I love. And Daniel, if you notice, there's a little tricky thing about Daniel, and is that he was working ahead. And so notice that there's a little turning thing right here. There's an animation. That's something that he really worked ahead and then decided to add an animation to his unit 1. So there's a question on there about stars. So here's the thing. When I am in my sandbox and I add a star, so I add a star 200, 200, 100, and then we're going to do 10 points. Well, actually 4 points. And I'm going to do fill equals blue. So a star can have as many points as you want. So besides that, I can also play with it, which is one of my favorite things. Again, favorite things. I love things. This curriculum, because there's so much for the students to play with. So roundness gives them, this is what happens with roundness. So 18 makes it super skinny, and then like 75 gives me a very plump, now almost a square star. Let's say that I want 30 so that we can see this here. I think that's the default. And if I eliminate this, maybe it won't change. It does change, so I don't know what the default is. But let's say that that's, let's do 60 instead. No, that's 600. Let's do that little star right there. But let's say that I wanted, instead of 4 points, 50. So that's what happens with my 50 points. And if I change that roundness to 10, it's becomes something like this. So Autumn, I wish I had that answer. I am not 100% sure, and I need to ask Evan that question. He's our software engineer. I think it has to do with Python and the way that Python does things. because we all have that same question, and I had that same question in the beginning, because no matter how many times I've used this curriculum and how many things I've designed, my brain doesn't like that the Y gets bigger as it goes down. It's just not normal. So I think it has to do with the language itself. It's not something that we could change. We can, but the problem is that we want to make sure that we're true to Python. So there are some things that we've left alone. But here is what the star does too. So and I mentioned that things are like there's some necessary things and there's some things that we can play with. So again, if I go with 1,000 points, that's where these are my favorite stars because they just look pretty. And they look gorgeous in like the space kind of thing. And it looks translucent. So if I added a background, which if you did this, you can add a background equals, and we're going to make this black so that you can see the single quotes versus it doesn't care, but I do. But you can see, oh, black is too dark. So let's do, I don't know, think again. But see, you can see more between them so that you can see, but it creates some pretty shapes in there. Another thing that you can do, and we're going to go back to 4 here, is you can add border. So border equals true would add a black border. Border equals black, sorry. Actually, yellow. And you can see that it adds a border. Dashes equal true would add dashes to that. We can add the border width equals 10 would make that thicker. So we have a lot of things that we can play with, especially because we're designing. But I do want to go back into our course and give you time for questions and such. But I want to show you that there are exercises that students are going to be working on that look like this. And like I said, you know, those stars are gorgeous and they look like, you know, this one just looks like shadows with light. And it's a thing that students will have to code. So they'll be given some green guidance there, and then they can use the inspector, which notice that I'm hovering over my solution. There's always a solution provided for exercises, obviously not for creative tasks, but there's always a solution provided so that students can look at the shapes, find the information they need, and then create their solutions. So you can see all of that. And then there's also checkpoints in the lessons. So if I'm doing a lesson, I can go to the checkpoint and it'll ask me some questions. So how they learn what these numbers mean is by using these kinds of things. And it says that I want the code to look like this, as close as I can, because we don't want them to be exact. It doesn't need to be exact. So like I can start moving okay, I'm close to 80, and now I gotta get to 120. And then it needs to be 65 on the third number. And it needs to have 9 points. So once you do something like that, you can complete those. So this is also part of our curriculum in terms of students get access to this. And if I do mine, it doesn't show up on theirs. So it's not like my work will be reflected on their screens. But I can also, when I need to go see a student or something and help a student. So this student right here might need help, whoever Ice Tray is. I can actually go and see what their work is by clicking. So I could see this and see. And if I needed to, hey, can you check the color? And I could send that feedback, and this is what it looks like. I'm going to sign in as a student because I can. I can go into people and sign in as user because you're a student in my class. And then I'm going to show you what that looks like if you go to, I think it was in the second one. there should be a note from me somewhere, but because I just did it, it might not be showing. But you should see a red dot that shows up that says, oh, you have some feedback from your teacher. So you can show all of those things, and it's helpful because students are not left to their own devices. We have a lot of ways that we can interact with them. And then we can always unlock less notes, but we try to tell people that they should go directly in an order so that they can do that. And then this little table right here helps me see how long people have been on. You can see that I've spent 2 hours yesterday, 3 hours today. That's because I'm doing PDs. Somebody spent 1 minute. Other people have been on for 17. It doesn't track if you're just on the page doing nothing, but if you are moving around, it will track that you are making some progress. So it provides a lot of information for student engagement. So at this time, I'm going to pause my shared screen, and then, all right, so we should have captions again. There we go. All right, so if anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer them. So why is the Canvas grid different? Oh, we already talked about that. Anybody else have any questions about any of the tools? So are PDs offered during the school year? Yes, we do offer some PDs, but we also have some asynchronous videos that we offer. Most of the school year PDs are tied to a district. So some districts will ask us to share something with them. And so we will do some of those during the school year. We are going to start doing more during the school year as well, though, because not every country follows the same kind of school year. So for example, Costa Rica is starting to use our curriculum, and they've been in session since, so their school year runs late January through November, if I'm not mistaken. As for art, that's a good question. So yes and no. We use graphics to do everything that we do, but we have other courses that, and unfortunately our captions are going to go off again, but we have, so our CS2, for example, does use graphics, but it goes into more mathematical stuff, and like it has some data visualization, so you can see some of the graphs that should show up. There it is. So you can see some of the graphs. We also have complex curves. So there's multiple things that we do in these kinds of courses, depending on what the course is. So I'm looking for complex curves. There it is. So we can create some art using those complex curves, and you can see what that looks like. But if you go to the course, we talk about the curves themselves, the mathematics behind it, how to get the points in those directions, and so on and so forth. And there's one of the, there it is. Some of them have the polar graphs equivalent of those things. So Jackie, usually our CS1 PD is, depending on how your informal educator is set up. So if you can find documentation that demonstrates what it is that you're doing for what district, school, group, organization, we will allow a teacher account. But for the most part, those are mentor and volunteer accounts that go through mentor account and somebody else has the teacher account. Then they can admit me to their classroom, And I get to see the entire curriculum for their class, so the CS1, without the solutions. So there's ways for mentors to get access if they partner with a teacher. What other questions can I answer? One of the things that I will share is that when we do our PDs, we work with, we talk about culturally responsive teaching, we talk about pedagogy, we do a lot of deep dives into what it means to create a good assignment for creative tasks, how to assess those, and all of that. Are there plans to create a similar platform for CSA? We do not have any. CS Academy is Python, and CSA, if I'm not mistaken, is Java. So, or JavaScript, I don't remember. I think it's Java. But yeah, we don't have that currently at all. We are sticking with Python as far as I know. So Autumn, the truth of the matter is that CS2 is the one that is supposed to be modular, meaning that you should be able to jump in and out of the curriculum. However, I don't know how easy or hard that is yet because we are piloting it. We piloted it this year, and there are some pretty major adjustments that we wanted to make based on the pilot feedback. In terms of, there was a lot of deep dives into some areas, but then not enough mathematical support or stuff like that. And so our content designer, Elliot, he's working on that. And Elliot has been in the program since he was a student at Carnegie Mellon. So he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to our teacher feedback. So, because again, we do listen to our teachers and to what they're asking for from us, so that the tool is as effective as we can possibly make it for teachers. And yes, it will be flexible. So fall 2022, that curriculum is going to be flexible. CS1 is linear on purpose. So we do not want students jumping in and out of sections because they're dependent on each other. But they are, so the CS1 is meant to be kind of like the 15-112 college level. The CS3 will be pretty much on par with a college level course. Yeah, so we, I used to use the Robotics Academy as well a few years ago. And so this is, I will say our founders and CMU, what we do is we do try to make everything helpful for our participants. PDs in Spanish for teachers only, they're for teachers and mentors. We will absolutely have some mentors in this coming PD on Monday because we have partnerships with a couple of organizations. One of them is Prober Academy, who is, some of their mentors are students who are teaching in the schools with permission from the Ministry of Education. So it's, they're a nonprofit, we're a nonprofit, and they're going to be using our curriculum. So we are allowing them to be in the PD in order to get a really good in-depth look at our curriculum so that we can have that partnership working, and they're in Ecuador. So, so yeah, we are working on how do we include mentor accounts and people who are using mentors accounts and partnerships with teachers into our trainings. But yeah, we are going to have, and the way that we're going to do it is if somebody doesn't have access to the CS1, what they'll be able to do is join a demo class with us. So they'll be a student in the class, but they'll have complete access to the curriculum. So that way they can follow along with the lessons and the exercises. I'm glad that this was helpful, and please feel free to give feedback, and please let me know what you think. No, I don't think that not going to a PD is an issue. I think that part of why our curriculum works is because there is so much support. So I would say play with it on your own time if you can't attend a PD. And then if you encounter any issues, you don't understand what something is, just click on that support tab and we will answer your questions. And we are happy to do that. And there are so many teachers who have never taken the trainings. We have over 1,200 teachers currently that are working on our curriculum. And so of those, I think maybe half of them have taken the training, if that. And yes, look in the chat up above, the links are in there. And you can also access the presentation. I gave you the access to that. And you can find the links for the training signups in there as well. And yes, there is definitely Max. We've had quite a few people sign up. We were booked for this week. We have 2 more coming up. And then we are also going to make the videos of the PD available as asynchronous trainings. So we will have options for asynchronous trainings coming up shortly. For the Spanish PD, because we have teachers starting at different times because of the differences in school years, we are creating mini videos that go into some of the really important concepts so that teachers can just pick and choose from those and learn through those. And then if those work out well, we will adapt them for other languages like English. Yeah, Autumn, the offline ones would probably be the best option for you if you want to watch our videos. We'll have the recordings because we've been recording this week by next week. So if you want to send me an email, I can share with you where to find them. And we're almost out of time. So I want to make sure that I say thank you, everybody. This is great. If you have any questions, you have my email. I will answer. I will find the answers if I don't know them. But yeah, please feel free to play with our curriculum and ask us any questions that you might have. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sophia. That was amazing. And just a reminder, this session will be recorded as well and up on our YouTube channel to watch later if you need to. Thanks, everyone. See you in the next session.